I'm
So,
kind of wondering the same thing, you know, you think of like St. Louis, you know, or, you know, where they're all, you know, because we turn in what goes forfeit every year, we take off what goes forfeit every year, so we keep that up to date, but if they're not getting it right.
well, that's what I was wondering. So they do a 6-year assessment. Typically.
Value, but this,
Yeah.
they didn't even have all the property, they were missing a lot of property.
I know. So who does the 6-year assessment? It's on us to make sure we get.
Right, and you know, we always do. We need to- The state wasn't getting it on.
Matt, yeah, Matt. Having discussion.
I'm good. I'm good. Jenny. Hey. Hi. Here, move the Kleenex box.
Yes. Okay, okay.
Did you ever get a chance? What? You ever get a chance?
They didn't know we. He don't answer his phone when I call.
I just said daily after last meeting. I just wondering if you ever connected with them.
Yeah, I did after that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
For you.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
The meeting, then I.
I followed this white vehicle in the parking lot and I thought, I have not followed that vehicle in this parking lot for a long time.
Okay, folks. This is the best, this is the best class reunion I've seen for a long time. What, you bring out a crowd, Jenny, that's for sure. Anyway, our meeting is, today we have, JJ Weldham, will be taking part via Zoom. And, there's a few other staff people on Zoom. I do not see any other general public on Zoom, but JJ there?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So with that, we'll call the meeting to order and rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there anybody here that wishes to speak in public forum? Anybody? All right, we'll move on to the agenda. We've got a couple additions.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'm Dave Minke, County Administrator. There are 2 additions. If we could add number 6B, training for the AMC Leadership Summit. And Steve has expressed interest in attending that. And if we could add item 6C, training for the National Association of Counties Annual Conference, and Terry has expressed interest in attending that.
Ludwig will move as amended.
Moral second.
Thank you. Any discussion? If not, Debbie, you want to call the roll?
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
District 1, Chair Holland.
Aye.
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Lovegren.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Waldham.
Yes.
Thank you.
Looking for approval of the minutes of the February 21st, 2023 regular county board meeting and summary for publication.
I'll move the minutes.
I'll second.
I thought that was a second. Motion by Lovegren, seconded by Moore. Any discussion? If not, Debbie, you want to call the roll?
District one, Chair Holland.
Yes.
District two, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
District three, Commissioner Lovegren. District four, Commissioner Waldham.
Yes.
District five, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
Thank you.
And then we got minutes of boards, committees and correspondence, the planning. Pine County Land Surveying Monthly Report for January. And the Pine County Historical Society correspondence from February 13th.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ludwig, second by Lovegren. Any discussion? If not, Debbie, you want to call the roll?
District two, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
District three, Commissioner Lovegren.
Aye.
District four, Commissioner Waldham.
Yes.
District five, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
District one, Chair Holland.
Yes.
Thank you.
And that moves us up to the consent agenda. You've had that in front of you for several days. Any questions, concerns?
I'll make a motion to approve this consent agenda.
I'll second. Ludwig.
Motion by Lovegren, second by Ludwig to approve the consent agenda with the two. Any discussion? If not, Debbie, you want to call the roll?
District three, Commissioner Lovegren. District four, Commissioner Waldham.
Yes.
District five, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
District one, Chair Holland.
Yes.
District two, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us up to a recognition of the retirement of Jenny Christensen. And I before Kelly speaks, I gotta say something. Before I knew this was gonna be an event at the county, guess who I heard this from? Sitting at a coffee shop in Florida. Shar Hutchins, who knows everything, knew about this event. So she filled me in.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm Kelly Schroeder, County Auditor Treasurer, and I have a little bit to say about Jenny.
All right.
Well, Jenny's retirement from Pine County is not on terms any of us ever imagined, and our love and support for her can be felt throughout this room today. I am hopeful today we can focus on the positive, so I'm going to keep it a bit light. It is a little bit fitting that we are recognizing Jenny's years of service to Pine County today, March 7th, as it was exactly on this day 11 years ago that I began working for Pine County and met Jenny. My first impression of her started before that, though. They don't know this, but I was a little bit nervous to start, so I may have Googled my future employees to see what I could learn about them. I'll spare you the details of what I learned about the others for their retirements. The one thing I learned about Jenny was that she was involved in the Shengwatana ATV Club. While I could not pronounce Shengwatana at that time, I immediately knew she was my kind of gal as I rode ATVs as well. Anyways, back to Jenny. Immediately, Jenny stuck out as a leader in the office to me. Annually in March, we prepared for the phones to start ringing when valuation notices hit mailboxes and for the local boards of review. Jenny did much of the preparations, and given the fact I was out on maternity leave during the local boards of review that first year, Jenny stepped up and took care of several on her own. I did have the privilege to attend one that year with her, though. She had told me it was the best one to attend in Windermere Township. While the room wasn't quite as full as I had imagined, there were folks there with a lot of questions, but she was able to address their questions and keep the meeting under wraps. Over the years of working together, Jenny continued to be a leader in the office and someone I could depend on. Well, most of the time. Sometimes when the appraisers are out at people's properties, the property owners will call the office upset about something the appraiser said or did. I did get one of these calls once on Jenny. It was from a gentleman who said he had come home to the appraiser at his house. And given the township, I figured out it would have been Jenny. And the appraiser was in her pink bikini, sunbathing on his deck in a lawn chair. While it felt a little bit like a Goldilocks moment, I was left a bit speechless. Normally, I can explain why appraiser was doing what they were doing, yet this, my mind was racing. Jenny's favorite color is pink. But that couldn't have happened and obviously did not. Yet we've gotten to razz Jenny over the years about her sunbathing incident. With that, I know the board's got their traditional clock that they're going to give you. But the assessor's office has brought you a gift and it happens to probably be a pink lawn chair. To have some enjoyable moments in, whether it's sunbathing on your own time or just adoring those grandkids of yours.
Thank you, Kelly. You want to go down, Laurie?
Should we add that the guy that called is a little loony?
By golly.
Right.
Kelly's always a hard one to come after, so thank you for keeping it light. I am going to keep my message to you, Jenny, very short.
There's Kleenexes right there.
Yeah, thank you. I told myself I wasn't going to do this, but Jenny, this message is not only from myself, but from everyone at the courthouse. We want to thank you for your contributions to Pine County throughout the years. Your knowledge, patience, hard work, understanding, and sense of teamwork has not gone unnoticed and very much appreciated. I say this from the bottom of my heart and from everyone else in our office. We are forever grateful to have been able to work alongside you, to learn from you, and to have been your coworkers. You will be hard to replace, and please don't forget, above all else, we love you.
Well, Jenny, it's time to get your gold-plated clock. I'm sure it is real gold. It's heavy enough. But thank you, Jenny. I've known Jenny since
Oh, Steve.
small, in elementary school probably, when I first knew you, but anyway. Thanks for all the work you did here. Shar Hutchins does send her regard to you. And she's sorry she couldn't be here right now, but she did actually tell me about this event. But Jenny, thank you so much for the 30+ years. Is it 31? 30?
30
Quite-
years, 8 months, how many days?
But-
Let's go. Right, thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate it. I will say this is the most fun crowd I think we've ever had. Thank you all for coming. We appreciate it. And we all love Jenny. So it shows. Thank you very much. Anybody else want to say something?
I do.
Oh,
So I've worked with you since you started here. And so I knew you were in the sheriff's office and then you came to work with us in the auditor's office. And then I had to give you away when you went to the assessor's office. But you are a joy, Jenny. And I just always valued you as an employee, but as also as a friend. And so enjoy this next chapter. It's going to be, you're going to like retirement. It's going to be good.
thanks, Jenny. You want to say anything?
Thank you, everybody. The coworkers are what make the 30 years easier.
Thanks.
Don't you guys want to stick around and hear about Snake River watershed? Come on, this has been a long time in the work media.
Oops, I gave her the wrong thing.
Good job, Jen. Oh, now I'm calling you Jen. Sorry, Deb.
All right. We'll move on to the Snake River watershed update.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the board. I'm Caleb Anderson, the Land and Resources Manager for Pike County. And the Snake River Comprehensive Watershed Management Plan, we have an approved plan. It was approved by the State Board of Water and Soil Resources. It was a long time coming. I was actually looking back at my notes, and this board entered the MOA, the Memorandum of Agreement, to begin the planning process 3 years ago, which was right before the pandemic broke. So we got to learn how to do a watershed plan with all kinds of different partners through Zoom, and most of us were not well acquainted with Zoom. So it's taken a long time, but we're pleased to have an approved plan now for local government units within the watershed to consider approval of. So we've brought resolution 2023-17 adopting the Snake River Comprehensive Watershed Management Plan. Within the resolution, it states that we will be rescinding that portion of the county water plan within the watershed. This will essentially replace our county water plan. And there's been, as stated, significant effort in this. So it'll be a good replacement. There's a lot of good work mapped out in this plan, and we're on a good trajectory. Terry, Terry's been very involved with the process. If you have any other thoughts or additions.
No, it's moving right along. It's going good.
Okay.
We have 2 new county commissioners on the committee, and so it just seems to be flowing more. It hit me that in August is when everything kind of came to a halt with a lot of different things, because there were a couple of county commissioners that didn't like the way that it was going, and not the lack of control is the way I see it. So with these new county commissioners, I think it's just going to be a smoother process and go good.
You know, the Snake River watershed is big in our county because it starts where in Aiken County, and and when it gets here, it touches, the Pekegama Lake and all of that drainage, and Cross Lake and all of its drainage, and our lake associations have been very involved and so is their involvement incorporated into this plan?
For sure. I've got 2 meetings scheduled with with Pekegama Lake Association yet this month. We're working a lot with them. The rain barrel project that we just rolled out is coordinated through them. So they're going to be the lake associations will be important partners for implementing the watershed plan.
So on that, Caleb, one of the projects that they're doing on this watershed is Caleb brought to the committee to have some money for reimbursement. So it's a partnership for anybody in the Snake River watershed that wants to get rain barrels to help with this. Do you want to explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, it'll offset the cost of installing rain barrels it is riparian properties on Pekegama Lake, Cross Lake, and the Snake River. So not exactly the whole watershed, but and basically just recognizing rain barrels as a entry-level stormwater control practice. And we're going to try to start to build kind of the clientele for doing further conservation work with those folks.
So if you know anybody that lives within those areas that wants a rain barrel, have them talk to Caleb, because we've got a sweet deal.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
So there were a couple of significant votes on last Monday when the group met. And one, I think we should recognize that Terry was elected vice chair of the Snake River Watershed Management Board. So she was actually, because the chair was gone, she chaired that meeting. But then the policy committee made a recommendation as to the implementation structure. And that was to go with a joint powers that included the 4 counties and the 4 soil and water conservation districts as voting members. And that was the direction that Pine County had taken. And absent from that vote was Mille Lacs County, which I think had been somewhat reluctant to that position. And then the Kanabec Soil and Water Conservation District. And I don't know offhand if they,
support it.
yeah.
They
So,
support it.
so it was a 6-0 vote of the members in attendance. But then that raises a number of questions or lays out some options for the board, the county boards, the soil and water conservation districts boards, the Snake River board, and the policy committee as to what does it look like going forward, and whether what if any is the role of the Snake River Watershed Management Board versus the policy committee or the Joint Powers Association that might be formed to implement the One Watershed, One Plan. So I don't know if you, Terry, want to give some perspective on that, or if there's, Caleb, I know you at the staff level got direction to start working on the joint powers.
Yeah, it's an interesting position to be in where once absent of any change at the Snake River Watershed Management Board consisting of only counties, not soil SWCDs, absent of any change, there would be 2 joint powers agreements managing the same watershed, which many of us would feel was a little silly. So I think the Snake River Watershed Management Board will just have to decide, what does this group body's future look like? Do we just wrap in, dissolve, continue and have 2? So we'll have to work through it.
I want to see it together. Having 2 boards is silly.
Silly.
It
Yep.
is silly. So yeah, so that's kind of the goal I think that other people are seeing too. You know, and I want to say Pine County is really conservative on the fact that it's the same commissioner on both boards. But if you look at Aiken County, they had 2 different commissioners, and Mille Lacs County had 2 different commissioners. They had one on the membership board and then one on the One Watershed, One Plan board. And so I just really appreciate that this county is more conservative and just jumps it together, but which will also make the process of joining together, just being one committee, an easier thing to do.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
So wouldn't that get clumsy with 2?
I would think so.
That just
Doing the
doesn't
same
make, yeah.
exact thing, yeah.
So,
And when it comes, excuse me, but when it comes time, when you really start doing projects and working with landowners, and what I've seen happening already in the lower St. Croix, they're doing, our soil and water people, and in conjunction with the lower St. Croix watershed, are doing some wonderful projects already with farmers and landowners in the watershed. So I'm hoping we can get beyond just meeting about how the organization is
Right.
and get to the project, because that's what really matters.
There's a lot of money sitting out there
Right.
on the membership board, and that's one thing that needs to be figured out, is if that's gonna get rolled over into the plan, or if it's gonna be given back to I don't know how that's gonna work, so we'll have to work that one out. That'll be coming up.
so are you thinking about creating an entity or just staying in an agreement with everybody involved, like a joint powers agreement?
We were going towards an entity.
It would be a joint powers. And that's the interesting thing, and I'll move the microphone so Reese can weigh in because there's some legal issues. But if the resolution is adopted today, you in essence are rescinding the water plan that was adopted previously, that the Snake River Watershed Management Board had a role in implementing. And you're adopting the new plan, that's the One Watershed, One Plan, and assigning that to the One Watershed, One Plan group. I'll call it group, just to not bias what it might become. So what would the Snake River Watershed Management Board do? Right? I mean, I think that's.
I think that's all of our question, maybe.
And Mr. Chair, so one of the things is the Snake River Watershed Management Board, not the One Watershed, One Plan. They would always search out competitive grants. And that was part of in the early processing of it. Them grants aren't going to be available once One Watershed, One Plan. So, and I don't believe they've had a grant for a couple of years now. They've been just operating on money that they've had, which has been very little of doing anything. I remember back a few years ago, we had some pretty substantial grants and we were doing a lot of stuff. Every meeting, we were approving a lot of projects and then once the One Watershed, One Plan came in, we just kind of quit even applying for them grants because we were shifting everything over
To who?
to go,
FWCDs?
no, just to go into One Watershed, One Plan.
Yeah, but who's gonna
So-
do the grant?
Essentially, Snake River Watershed Management Board is One Watershed, One Plan. 30 years prior to the
Yeah.
existence, or 25 or whatever it was. The only difference is, and I don't know, have you had any pushback of anybody not wanting to just combine them? Or,
Well, Mille Lacs wasn't there. So
Okay.
they weren't at either one of the meetings last week. And so that's gonna be, I believe, where the pushback's gonna come from.
okay,
So.
because I remember in early stages, what is it, the CAC board, I can't remember what they call them, but they were kind of pushing back because they wanted a table or a seat at the table, but all they were was an advisory board. They weren't policy, so it ultimately came up, they could tell the commissioners they want them to do something and commissioners could do whatever they want, so that was kind of a misconception anyways, so.
I think the thing with this is there'll be a director and then the director will go out and they'll work with Pokegama and they'll work with Cross and they'll work with, those committees to see what we can do and how we can work together and keeping that communication open. So I don't know if there's going to continue to be a community advisory board. Or, I think the director is going to be taking over a lot of that role.
One of the differences that I've pointed out is unlike the Snake River Watershed Management Board, this new group will be working under a very detailed 10-year plan that has had a lot of public input.
Right.
And they didn't have that benefit before. So there was a lot of public engagement at every vote, every step along the way, where now we're kind of front loading it. And we can kind of move forward while still engaging, but
So does the plan get the dollars now, so you don't have to, so the Bowser just applies, here's your lump of money, and then they'll just decide what they're gonna do.
non-competitive grant funding to do the watershed work.
And that is the big key. This funding is guaranteed. It's
Right.
not, we're writing grants and hoping for something to come. This is a 10-year plan that's fully funded.
Well,
That's
then-
where I think it's way better.
This way the staff can get out and they can do what they want to do, which is to get the projects and get them working and work with the people and get it done, which is going to be huge.
Yeah.
That's what I worry about, is to do it efficiently,
Yeah.
instead of bogging it down with
Committees and
too many approvals
Yeah.
and too much process.
And Mr. Chair,
Plan exists.
Yes.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
Well, no, I just say if the plan exists and you have what you're gonna do in your plan, it's already just deciding which one you do at what time.
Yeah.
And the most important, you'd think you would grab first, right?
Just to make sure everyone is aware, the Snake River Watershed Management Board does have about $300,000 of funds in its custody. And those funds are the result of the annual contributions from the counties, of which Pine contributed just under $10,000 a year for probably since inception, but certainly for many years. And so that's a conversation that the Snake River Watershed Management Board will have to have as part of its discussion of what is its future role, if any.
So I tried to bring up some of those questions last time and it was kind of shut down. So they'll get on the agenda for next meeting and we'll see where it goes.
Okay. Interesting.
So right now, we'd be looking for a motion for this resolution 23-17.
I will make a motion to approve resolution 2023-17, adopting the Snake River Comprehensive Management Plan. Whoop, whoop.
And I will second.
Got a motion by Lundgren, seconded by Moore. Is there any question?
I just got one. Is this 2 of our 4 or is it?
so in the Magi, we are in a joint powers agreement and have an approved plan as well as Lower St. Croix. So this would be number 3. The 4th one coming would be the Kettle.
And that's it then.
Right.
Then we're done. Do you know statewide what their coverage is yet? Are they,
I don't have an answer to that. That's a good
Okay.
question.
sounds good.
We're getting close on Kettle.
Oh, yeah.
It's moving quicker.
And this law came in effect 4 years ago, 5 years ago?
Oh, gosh.
I wonder if
Probably.
we started the Lower St. Croix around 2017 or
Okay.
so. And that wasn't one of the first projects. There were others in other areas of the state prior.
But it was our first project
Yeah.
probably 6 years ago when we had our first meeting.
Yeah, okay. Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No further questions?
I have one.
Yeah, go ahead.
So Dave brought up that fund. So is there a way, or the fund that's existing when that dissolves, do they keep those dollars?
I think that's the question Terry is gonna ask. I mean, that they have not resolved that issue yet.
Okay,
Thank you.
Any other? If not, Debbie, you wanna call the roll?
District 4, Commissioner Waldham.
Yes.
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
all right.
District 1, Chair Holland.
Yes.
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Lovegren.
Hi.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, we've got a bunch of commissioner updates. The Arrowhead County Association legislative dinner was canceled due to weather. The Association of Minnesota County Legislative Conference went on electronically, which fell in my favor because I got to take part. So Terry, I know you were involved. If you want to start off on that.
Wow, I have way too many notes on that.
Yeah.
So it was really, they did a really excellent job putting it the way, I mean, they had such a short period of time to get it to go electronically. And it was amazing what they were able to do. So, you know, they talked about PILT, they're working on PILT. They went through all of the things that were important. Transportation revenues are down, which cuts the funding. So looking at that, ICWA and MIFPA were on their list. I sat in on Health and Human Services, and they're really looking at converging the trends and understanding the complex. And I think I've said it before, but all of the human service offices or health departments had to do a survey, and it was a huge survey. And Sam did ours and did just a bang up job, and every single county turned one in, which is miraculous right there. So that's with the extension right now, getting that looked at to see what our next steps are on redoing what public health means. The one thing that hit me that I didn't realize is Juneteenth doesn't take effect this year. It takes effect in 2024. I thought for sure that was this year, but it's not. So, yeah. Family resource, there's a huge interest in that. They're trying to make that a statewide thing. So, which will put us at the very beginning of that too, with our family resource centers and the grant that we received already to start that process. So we'll be at the front of that new system that's going to be taking place.
One of the things I gathered out of it was there was quite a bit of talk in the groups I was in is on the probation funding,
Yes.
that it seems to be a pretty universal, nothing's a slam dunk, but a universal movement afoot across the state that they have to fix probation funding. It has gone on for too many years.
There's a lot of work going into that, right?
The governor mentioned that in his speech, and you know, we heard it from legislators, we heard it from our analysts at AMC. It's got to get fixed, and now is the time to do it.
When it sounds like it's moving forward.
It is.
So
it
that
is.
was good. We'll see if it falls through or if it really
But
continues to go.
As we know, nothing's done till it's done. But I think there's great hope. The transportation funding, I sit on that transportation, and it's a strange dynamic, I think, even though the state has a surplus in the constitutionally set aside money for transportation is not in a surplus. It's in a deficit, actually. And so what that means to every county and city across the state is, as we break down those funds, we get less funding for all of our 3-digit roads or 2-digit roads, we get less funding. If you think about all those roads we drive on, that's about 400 and some miles of roads that we get state funding for out of the transportation funding. So we're where that's gonna go, everybody seems to recognize there's an issue. Nobody wants to say, well, let's take it from here and put it in a dedicated fund for transportation. Because nobody wants to give up what money they have. And nobody wants to have a new tax. It's not the most popular thing to do in a year when you have a surplus, so I don't know what's gonna happen, but inflation, we know, has eaten up a good portion of any transportation funds. So something's gonna have to give.
I went to the public safety, if you want to stay on this.
Yep.
There was a presentation, the number one thing on the agenda was EMS funding too, so AMC's working hard on that. And there was a presentation, two guys, and it was really good. There was a study that was done in 1965. They call it the Korean Battlefield Study. And it was based because the reason they did it was because all the highway crashes at the time, everybody was just dying. Because our EMS system was like nothing. You know, there was no ambulance service. It was the hearse would show up, and that's what they used because it's the only thing that could carry somebody horizontally in. They just weren't. And I remember those as a kid.
Yeah.
At a crash. I see one time. So anyway, that was kind of what started the federal government, and they pumped money out to jurisdictions to kind of get the ambulance and stuff going. Well, then about after 1966, it functioned pretty good until 1996, you know, and there's a bunch of different models. The hospitals had them, counties had them, and like Pine County, the county ran the ambulance service until Essentia bought it out. Well, then the money becomes the issue. It's funding all that stuff, you know, and some people had hospital districts, whatever. There's different models all over that we're working on it, but there's no people coming into it. And then how do you train the training issue we always have is if you're going to run these things, you have to be paramedic level, EMTI minimum, that type of thing. So you legality issues if you're doing the kind of first aid, doing airways and breathing and all that. So then you have we kind of had that transition happening, and then they used the seatbelt funds, which was easy to tie into because it was based on a crash study. So that it was kind of easy when they went to that. Well, with seatbelt compliance, that fund is going down, and so we're kind of in this limbo now of who's doing what. Hospitals bought out, so they're independent entities. How many are out here and there? So they're trying to figure that out. So we all are, you know, who's going to run these things, and then you have the manpower issue. We can't even get people to work in our jail. You know, there's only so many people that are working out there, and then the issue of volunteering, and then you have to be trained. So they call it the quiet crisis because the number of calls that are happening is still super high. It's like 715,000 a year. You know, calls in the state. Yeah. So that's a big number. Yeah. So anyway, that was a good, and I think the county administrators are going to get that a piece of that presentation, which will be much better than what I just gave you. I couldn't take the notes fast enough because there was a lot of data flying there.
That's the hard part.
And then we talked about probation. And which I'm on the work group, and that's we had that meeting too, and I think I briefed you on that already. That's moving forward. The funding formula is not. I don't have what came out of the committee. They presented the formula to us. They don't want it out there yet because it isn't finalized, but there's a base funding level. And then there's going to be the way they had it set up was a percentage based on your population, then a percentage based on your caseload. So it looks like the number is going to be higher if the state follows the plan than what we're getting now. And then we talked about the armor funding, which is also in and it works down there, at least they're having a discussion about it, which we just talked about here, and I can mention locally. Our department, the sheriff's department, has the new system that's encrypted, and they can't communicate with the troopers or the conservation officers, or they can't, those officers can't hear what our guys are doing when they're on that system, so they can't even roll for backup on their own, because we got ahead of that curve with our radios.
But we don't have the new radios that,
What's that?
as everybody transitioned to a whole new set of armor radios.
Yeah.
We're gonna need new radios. And so part of the armor funding is who's gonna pay for those?
Mhm.
It's
And it's expensive.
five grand a pop.
Yeah.
And we've got, if you add in all the fire departments and all the
Yeah.
sheriff deputies and everybody that we have in this.
Is our upgrade gonna be that much with their existing system? You mean, we don't
Yeah,
really?
yeah. We're looking at, I don't know, 250,000 probably, if we had to just do it tomorrow. And so that's one of those things that they're looking at is, they used the 911 money to buy armor, basically in the
Yeah.
beginning, the phone tax. And
You know what I think about? I think about when I first was a deputy. They used to do those big, crisis things, and they'd put on everybody, all the departments would show up. And the number one problem every time was communication.
Yep.
And that was in 1985. And so we've known about this forever, right? And it's just the money.
And
You know,
it's,
how, you have to be able to communicate.
and this, we went to this new armor system, 10, 12 years ago. Now we need to transition to a new armor system. It's not anybody's fault. It's the way the technology is going. And so, that's,
Anyway.
we can't be the only ones with walkie-talkies when everybody else has a sophisticated system.
I think we'd be able to figure it out.
Anyway, the bottom line for me of all of these legislative agenda items is we're looking for county program aid, armor funding, probation funding, PILT funding. If we get some from all of those, it'll really help. Really help us. So.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
If you can take one more
Yep.
legislative issue, I just learned of this last Friday. There is a bill that is proposing changes to the Public Employee Labor Relations Act that would make a term and condition of employment staffing ratio, which means staffing level. And so what I'm hearing is there's some misconception out there that if the law changes, then employers like counties could choose to negotiate that item, which is false. If it becomes a term and condition of employment, we would be forced to negotiate that item, right? Just like wages, we don't have an option because it's the law that we must negotiate a number. That would have an on-hold impact on your ability to manage your workforce by requiring number of employees in contracts, which is a little bit scary from a cost perspective. It's also scary from an ability to react to changing conditions.
Yeah, I was gonna say, who decides the levels?
Yeah,
Everybody's gonna be different.
it would be negotiated. So if you hear about this and someone says, well, you don't have to negotiate it, it would be optional. No, if it is the law that it's a term and condition of employment, you must negotiate it in good faith.
Oh, so it's kind of what we do now.
No,
We're
no,
gonna establish a number then.
no, it's like work schedule, right? It's an inherent managerial right to assign hours of work and work schedules. There are jurisdictions that negotiate the work shift in their contract. That's optional. You can choose to do that or not. But once you do that, it's in there. If it's a term and condition in the law, you have no option. right? You would have to, just like wages, right? We can't go to negotiations and say, we're not going to negotiate wages. Well, that would be an unfair labor practice and we'd be sued. So the same, if the law changes, we would be forced to negotiate numbers of employees. And I don't know that, and I just learned of this last Friday. I don't know if how far the bill is going to go, but certainly it's supported by people in the majority party in St. Paul. So keep your ears open.
Is that just public employers or all employers?
It would be statute 145A, which is the Public Employee Labor Relations Act. I don't know if that applies more widely than just public employers or all employers.
I would guess public right now.
Yeah, because that would be
And
interesting.
Minneapolis is maybe a case study where they have a charter which requires a minimum staffing based on population. They haven't been able to meet that level for a variety of reasons, but they've been sued over that, right? Because they are violating the law. So it's one of those things that seems under the radar that would have a huge impact.
Not going on under the radar.
Yeah. Thank you.
And then, because I'm a director now of District 1 for AMC by default, but I am, we had a meeting that would have had been in person, but it was on Zoom, so I got to attend. And mostly it was a wrap up of the legislative conference and the decision to go to do it virtual, which turned out to be a brilliant decision because they decided to go virtual, and then the legislature decided to send everybody home. So had everybody gone to St. Paul for the conference, the legislators wouldn't have been there. So we would have had to Zoom call them back to their home anyway. So those meetings went fine. We did meet with Senator Rarick, and Representative Nelson was on the call, although I do not recall that he said anything. And then we met with Representative Jeff
Dodson.
Yeah. And so those were, I didn't learn a lot of stuff new from them, but it's always good to have a face-to-face with those people.
And with Jeff Dodson, he asked if we could send a letter on what our concerns were, just so that it's so that was nice to have that option, because now he's got it got emailed and then Deb sent it off. She's very good at fixing letters too, by the way.
Yeah.
But she
She's a
sent
pro.
it out to him, so he had it in writing, and then he also had it on email what our concerns were that we brought to the table, which is always a good thing. That was nice.
And the other thing,
Thanks,
we had a
Davey.
chance to
You're a pro.
educate him on the paperwork reduction thing
Yes.
that we've been working on. So Becky followed up with him, and so that's always good. We'll move on. NLX was canceled. Pine County Housing was canceled. State Community Shack.
So Shaq, we met, we got to meet the new commissioner, the new health commissioner, who is Brooke Cunningham. And so speaking of our paper reduction, she wants to go out and meet with counties, and I was the first one to say, please come to Pine. So hopefully we'll get her to come and visit, and we can talk about the issues that we're seeing and just reestablish that communication as to the things that we need to see getting fixed with her, that we've already been working with St. Paul. So that will be good. One of the things that she was talking about was broadband and how we need broadband for telecommunity or for telehealth. And she was saying, all the libraries need to have it so that people can go use the broadband at libraries and have a little room in the library for telehealth. And I was thinking, that's not going to benefit a lot of our people because they still have to drive 50 miles to get to a library. So we talked a little bit about that too, that we still have that issue, and broadband is still a big thing. She said that she brought up about the family resources system renovation. She said the governor has 1 million in the budget And then it is a big one on the AMC list, so we talked about that. So, and then taking county money, 4.4 to 6 million is spent by counties for mental health, moving from one facility to another and talking about getting that to be dealt with by the state. So she seemed like she's right on board with a lot of our issues. She's worked a lot with Terrell and Sheila. And then Dee is the new vice chair. And so she's met with them and worked with them. And it sounds like she's got a really good idea of where the county's needs are with what goes on with public health and moving that forward.
Do they have a plan for, it's easy for a guy like me to say, we need help with mental health. I really don't know what that means. I mean, somebody has to have a plan that says, we need this facility in East Central Minnesota, or we need this doctor, set of doctors, or whatever. Are they?
I think they're finally just realizing that there's a need.
Okay.
And so then we can see where it can go moving forward. But I mean, everyone, when you talk to them, it's like, oh, so I think that comprehension is just starting to really get there. But I do believe that they're starting to work on what they can do for hospitals and to help get more openings for mental health, because it is such a big issue.
Snake River Watershed Policy and Management Board,
We just
you
talked
have,
about all
we
that.
covered that quite well. East Central Regional Development Commission, did you meet, JJ?
That was the one that was canceled, the snowstorm, right?
Okay. Lakes and Pines, again, was gonna be in person, but because of weather, they put it virtual. They did some training for the board, which was really good because it was for new board members and they wanted some old board members to be there. And they went through every department like we would do and have our department heads come and tell about their programs and how they interact with the county people. And I'll be forever confused probably on that interaction sometimes and how it flows for. I think about the person that needs help with living in a house that's substandard. And how does that all work together between our health and Lakes and Pines? Maybe I'll figure it out. And then we had a what is this called here? The board roles and responsibility training, which was done by a lady named Becky Schuler, which is not the Becky Schuler from Pine City, but a lady from Bemidji who has a company that does training. It was a good mind game. I mean, it was good to hear that stuff. It's a good reminder for board members to hear. And anyway. Pine City Fiber Network Joint Board. We have not met for a long time. We find that there is a need to meet again, and by the bylaws of the joint powers, we need to appoint a member from this board because we have a seat on that joint powers board. I had been the member since for many years anyway, and I would be willing to be the member, but I would need a board appointment.
The motion for that right now, I'll make a motion that you stay on the Pine City Fiber Network Joint Powers Board.
I'll second.
And then would you include yourself in that motion as the alternate?
I'll do that.
Got a motion by Lovegren, second by Ludwig.
Alter your second.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why we need to meet. The city is trying to figure out their citywide network. And there are some assets that are in the ground that were put there, how many years ago, Dave? It's 2002, and 11 years ago. Some conduit was run down during a street reconstruction. And so I believe we might have a couple of strands of fiber to get from here to when we were downtown before, through the state of Minnesota. But anyway, we have some interest, so we'll try to figure that out. Anyway, we have a motion and a second. If there's no other questions.
Yeah, Mr. Chair. I guess I'd be willing to offer my help with this. I think I got quite a bit to offer with my years of experience of both stringing overhead, installation of underground.
Okay, thanks, JJ, for that.
Yeah, just wanna let you know.
Yep, the asset is already there. It's just helping the city figure out where the endpoints are.
Correct.
We'll find out when we have a meeting, what their real question is. But thank you. Debbie, you want to call the roll?
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
District 1, Chair Holland.
Yes.
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Lovegren.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Waldham. Commissioner Waldham.
Yes.
Thank you.
Do we have other?
Yep, land committee.
Land, okay.
We're gonna bring it to the call meeting. And we'll have a full discussion there.
Okay.
So JK, with that, we brought your concerns with the Pheasant Forever property that was gonna be. And so, yeah, when we were talking at the land committee, we just decided it would be easier to talk about all of it as a whole. So we'll talk about it next Tuesday. And then we've got some resolutions that need to be passed for the forfeited land sale and that type of stuff while we're there too.
Yeah, any word yet on the PILT money that's gonna be rolling up to Pine County from the legislature?
It's still in the mix.
Yeah. All we've been hearing is that there's a legislative conference that AMC, did you get a thing on that through email from AMC for Monday morning?
I believe so, yeah.
Legislative update, and those are usually really good to find out where things are at with the legislature and what's going on. So as of right now, we're all kind of on the same page. We know that they're talking about it, but that's all the further that we know. I have another.
Yep.
So I went to the using labor force through workforce strategy. And I actually invited Jackie to go in on that one too. And I think that she did. I couldn't see who was on it, but it was kind of a good way to find out what's going down. So the labor force size is down 90,000 people since the pandemic. Females are down 2.5% and males are down 1.7%. So, I mean, when we talk about our workforce shortage and what's going on, that's a big part of it. The age trend that they had was from 2000 to 2021. Kids under 5 was at 5.1% and over 85 was at 54%. They're figuring from the trend that's going on and from the surveys that they've taken from 2023 to 2043, under 5 is going to be at 11.87%, but over 85 is going to be at 128.7. So it's just talking about, for over 85 to go from 54% to 128.7 is a huge difference. But that's where our workforce is, and that's what our issues are. And so
We've gotten that much older, and this is for East Central Minnesota or all of
this is Minnesota.
Okay.
So a lot of what they checked on was metro based, but it's through the whole state of Minnesota is what they were talking.
Well, we know from Council on Aging and from the workforce meeting that Pine County is towards the top in the percentage of retired people, 60 and older, 65 and older.
One of the other things they did a thing on employer responses to labor needs. So what they could do to hire people. 80% have increased wages, 50% have done flex schedules. Hiring bonuses are only 18%, and they said that they're really not working. It's something that's being tried, but it's not. And then increasing the retirement benefits is at 8%. So the majority of it, they said everybody's increasing their wages, which is very true. And then the flex schedules was the next big one to help people so that they can fit in and do what they need to do. So it's interesting to see.
Oh, any other? We've got plenty of upcoming meetings. There's some days I know that I've got way more meetings than I've got time in the day, but we'll get to as many as we can. So with that, declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you much.
Bye, everybody.
Hi,
Bye,
JJ. Have a
JJ.
good day.
You too.
Stay warm.